the digital RMB, can you imagine like the rest of the world start trading, using this currency instead of US dollar?
Interesting, okay.
And the sooner to you be able to sort of enable the world be able to transact, why am I still paying $15, $45 to wire transfer from San Francisco to Hong Kong if I can just, peer-to-peer, of course, with full-blown KYC, AML, and basically cut down that time to seconds and super zero costs. That really is a real pain point that I think the government realized that if they can achieve that with the right framework, they could be leading the way for the rest of
the left-wing lunatics are trying very hard to bring back COVID lockdowns and mandates with all of their sudden fear-mongering about the new variants that are coming. Gee whiz, you know what else is coming? An election. They want to restart the COVID hysteria so they can justify more lockdowns, more censorship, more illegal drop boxes, more mail-in ballots, and trillions of dollars in payoffs to their political allies heading into the 2024 election. Does that sound familiar? These are bad people. These are sick people we're dealing with. But to every COVID tyrant who wants to take away our freedom, hear these words: we will not comply. So don't even think about it. We will not shut down our schools. We will not accept your lockdowns. We will not abide by your mask mandates. And we will not tolerate your vaccine mandates. They rigged the 2020 election, and now they're trying to do the same thing all over again by rigging the most important election in the history of our country, the 2024 election, even if it means trying to bring back COVID. But they will fail because we will not let it happen. When I'm back in the White House, I will use every available authority to cut federal funding to any school, college, airline, or public transportation system that imposes a mask mandate or a vaccine mandate.
Thank you, President Trump. You've spoken very passionately about how God saved your life. And I'm wondering, have you put much thought into why God saved your life? As in, for what purpose has he been shielding and protecting you?
So, I don't know if you heard the question. You've spoken about God saving your life, that I've spoken passionately about it. And something happened, because that was a miracle. I never looked that way. The audience was massive, and it was in front of me. I never have that particular graph. That was a graph on, as you all know now, that it's very, I think everyone knows it very well, but it showed the great numbers on illegal immigration. It was the lowest point we've ever had. And it was one that I use less than 20% of the time. It's always at the end of the speech, not at the beginning of the speech. And it's always on the left side, not the right side. And yet, for some reason, I called it. It's not on a teleprompter. I do things largely without a teleprompter, frankly, because it's hard to hold an audience if you're going to go for an hour and a half or 2 hours reading a script. And I just talked about it, and I moved to my right, turned sharply to my right, ping. And if I didn't do that, I'm not here with you. So, yeah, God has something to do with it. It's a miracle, and God had something to do with it. And maybe it's we want to save the world. This world is going down. This world is going down. So it could be. But I believe that. I believe that my sons are very good shooters. They're like scratch golfers, better, relatively speaking, with shooters, great shooters. And Eric and Don both told me from 130 yards. I said, well, that's pretty far away, isn't it? They said, no, that's like a 1-foot putt with, weapons like the one being used. Plus, he was a good shooter. This guy was a good shooter. He went to the range and shot a lot, and he was supposed to be a pretty good shooter. They said a bad shooter would hit the target almost 100% of the time. So something happened. And I have to say the Secret Service sniper did an amazing job. He had
Welcome to the Crypto Teacher. And I come back with that video just to make you think.
Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel.
And make sure you're joining the Patrons. If you're not a part of the Patrons, make sure you're hitting the Cash App. And make sure you go to TikTok, like and follow, and make sure you spread this channel everywhere. Like and subscribe. And guys, I'll be back this weekend. Had my little vacation. I'm just trying to rest up. Didn't really go anywhere, but definitely spent a lot of time with the boys. And we have a lot of entertainment going on. And we're watching the fall of America to Babylon right in front of our eyes, right along with that world reserve currency. And we're witnessing the rise of these digital currencies and the emerging markets, the BRICS nations. That digital yuan with that Belt and Road is going to replace the supremacy that the United States once had. Now we have Trump on all the 2020 events, and they're not going to happen. But remember, guys, they all started with him. And don't forget, all those executive orders he signed, a lot of them were AI, fintech. So the only thing he did was transfer everything over to Biden, and Biden just extended it. We know all this money printing, everything happened under Trump's watch. He didn't stop anything. Remember, guys, it's all about the Hegelian dialectic, so then therefore someone can take the blame. And we have institutions buying up Bitcoin, BlackRock, Morgan Stanley, UBS, Bank of America, hedge funds, retirement accounts. And we know they're buying it for the clients. Remember, guys, follow the money. Now we have Waymo automated cars blowing the horn. Remember, your life is an illusion and TV is your reality. We've seen this before in the movies. And we have August 15th, the anniversary of us going off the gold standard with Nixon, the economic crisis. And guess what? We're right back at it. Ain't it crazy, guys? Remember, I told you this is the chosen generation. The reason why? Because they're the weakest. Remember, my people perish from the lack of knowledge because they reject it. Not because it's not there, because they reject it. And America is spoiled with a lot of government subsidies. And remember, if you allow the government to feed you, they're definitely going to starve you. And remember, the Cryptoteacher told you. We had the petrodollar replace gold, and that allowed the NWO to pump that money printer, and they bought up the globe. It is no longer about money anymore. They can care less. It's all about the power. And then we have billionaire investors selling because they know they will get tech stocks cheaper. Guys, we've seen this movie before. Remember, guys, anytime we take a hit, the NWO stocks always take a hit along with everything else, and then they rise back up. And this is going to be no difference. They're selling right now at the top because they know they're going to get it dirt cheap. Pennies on the dollar. Is just whether you can hold on tight. If you can hold on tight along with them, you're going to be fine. And remember, the Cryptoteacher told you, because he knows. When it comes to the NWO, it's all planned out. You have a wonderful day.
Bitcoin on pace for a negative quarter, but interest continues to grow across Wall Street when it comes to Bitcoin ETFs. Let's get to Mackenzie Sagalos with that story. Hi, Mac.
Hey, Contessa. So that 13F deadline on Wednesday gave us a read on which banks and hedge funds took a position in the new spot Bitcoin ETFs in the second quarter. Goldman Sachs in particular went big in Q2, lifting its holdings to over $418 million, up from zero exposure in Q1. Now, most of that is coming from the 7 million shares that it holds in BlackRock's ETF. Morgan Stanley actually trimmed its Bitcoin ETF holdings to around $189 million and swapped out its Grayscale shares for BlackRock's offering. HSBC has nearly $3.6 million worth of spot Bitcoin holdings, and Bank of America has $5.3 million in these products. UBS and JP Morgan both took on minimal stakes. Now, it's worth noting that most of these banks are likely just snapping up crypto for their clients, not their own balance sheets. And then you've got hedge funds like Millennium Management, which are some of the biggest buyers. It's a single largest holder of shares in BlackRock's Bitcoin ETF. Recent filings also show that Point72 Asset Management, Elliott, Apollo, Citadel, Jane Street, and the Michigan Retirement System have all got spot Bitcoin products in their portfolio.
So these Waymos, we've talked about them before. They're all over the Bay Area, the San Francisco streets by day. This is what they look and sound like by night. So these cars need to be parked somewhere at night, and this is where they go. And the honking is actually a feature that Waymo, which is owned by Alphabet, implemented so that they would be safer when someone backs up another car with a human driver. They would honk to let them know that they were there. It is keeping these residents up. You can see that it is surrounded by many buildings.
Time now for that walk down memory lane. On this day, August 15th, 1971, U.S. President Richard Nixon pitched to the nation a fire hose of economic policy changes designed to combat an economic winter that has seen inflation triple over 2 years, the unemployment rate spike above 6%, and a balance of payments surplus reverse to a soaring deficit. Facing intense voter pressure to avoid another recession, Nixon, at around 9 p.m. on a Sunday night, preempted the popular TV Western Bonanza to beam into American homes to say the time had come for a new economic policy that targets 3 areas: unemployment, inflation, and international speculation. It was a bombshell. Dubbed the Nixon shock, the president imposed a 90-day freeze on worker wages and consumer prices, the first time such drastic measures had ever been taken outside of wartime. He added a surcharge of 10% on foreign imports and, most importantly, suspended convertibility of the dollar into reserve assets. It was a breaking of a multi-decade gold standard that led to the irrelevancy and demise of the Bretton Woods system that had guided international finance since World War II. Put in its place was what would become more than a half century of globalization, flexible exchange rates, and open markets that shifted the U.S. and other major nations into interventionist directions. And while initially it was well received, the changes over time would have grave consequences, ultimately fostering a series of subsequent monetary and fiscal interventions that sparked double-digit unemployment, double-digit inflation, and double-digit interest rates. And the post-war economic growth rates from 1945 to 1971 on an adjusted basis, that would never be seen again. That contributed to the slow burn of economic angst we see today among Americans who increasingly feel they're getting an ever smaller piece of the pie. Now, to be fair, the gold standard and Bretton Woods was hopelessly outdated, a barbarous relic, as John Maynard Keynes once called it. But the gold standard and the Bretton Woods system were just that, standards and systems that provided the world economy with decades of stability. Stability that since the Nixon shock of 1971 has never been fully restored.
These titans of the industry, billionaire investors, they sold some of their stake. George Soros sold some of his stake in Alphabet and Amazon. So some prescient moves there. Stanley Druckenmiller sold some of his exposure to NVIDIA. Also quite interesting. David Tepper, another family office investor, former hedge fund manager, cut some of his stake in Amazon, Microsoft, and Meta. So we do see some trimming of those tech positions ahead of what was a pretty significant sell-off.
Going to a different economy, and we're going to be learning more about that as we go. But clearly, we're learning that things can be done from remote locations. We're learning that technology can replace people even more than we thought.
We're not going back to the same economy. We're recovering, but to a different economy, and it'll be one that is more leveraged to technology. And I worry that that is going to make it even more difficult than it was for many workers.
In Silicon Valley, and my friends who work in technology know that what we did to the manufacturing workers, we are now going to do to the retail workers, the call center workers, the fast food workers, the truck drivers, and then even bookkeepers, accountants, insurance agents, lawyers, and on through the economy. So what happened to the manufacturing workers is a very clear sign.
And so we'll import Chinese-based CBDC technology. So it's going to be CBDC in a box provided to you by the People's Bank of China.
But every stock, every bond, every currency, every commodity, every piece of art, every private business, every piece of real estate will eventually be a token on a blockchain, an entry on a ledger, permanent and immutable. We will have truth instead of trust, and we will save over $7 trillion a year. 6 to 8% of global GDP is wasted by the friction of the trust industry that's necessary when you have dual entry accounting. With triple entry accounting, which is what a blockchain is, we get rid of all of that friction. It's a beautiful future.
Like what you see in China and their social credit scoring systems, right? If we get identity wrong, it could be a tool to enslave humanity. And if we get it right, it could be a tool to liberate humanity. And as an American, I'm obviously rooting for the one that's on the side of freedom.
Bitcoin is an international asset. And also, I do believe the role of crypto is, it's digitizing gold.
I actually believe
This technology is going to be very important. Look at it. We have been part of the huge revolution in investing through ETFs. We believe that ETFs will be changing the whole way we invest. Many people still use it as a means, well, people are investing it for indexing. No, the majority of people who are putting money in in ETFs are active investors that are buying exposure. The entire bond market is being transformed as we talk right now. I believe the next generation for markets, the next generation for securities will be tokenization of securities. And if we can have that distributed ledger that we know every beneficial owner, every beneficial seller, we all have our code of who's buying, who's selling, instantaneous settlement. And think about it, it changes the whole ecosystem.
Chinese bank ICBC has been hit by a ransomware attack, and the U.S. Treasury market, as a result of that, has been disrupted. This, according to the Financial Times. We're getting more right now with Bloomberg's Shonali Bassick. Shonali, what do we know?
Listen, we have the Financial Times now reporting that ICBC, one of China's largest banks here, was hit with a ransomware attack. And remember, they're a very significant intermediary in the Treasury market. The SIFMA has told its members that this has been part of the reason here that the system is kind of clogged up, if you will, during that auction that we saw a little bit before. The attack had prevented ICBC, according to the Financial Times, from settling Treasury trades on behalf of other market participants. A large executive at a major bank also telling the paper that such a large party on the fixed income clearing corp creates major concerns, potentially impacting the liquidity of Treasury markets.
Now, it was not just a poor auction. It was absolutely lousy, and when the dealers have to step in to save a Treasury auction, that's a rare occurrence. And
Cryptoteacher and the new World Order book, plus the 3 kids books, is time to re-educate. Also, if new to cryptos, Coinbase, Bitrue, Binance, do not forget book links and crypto links are in the description. The stock channel, guys. Don't forget to go like, subscribe, spread everywhere. You have your Kobo, your chip stocks, your banking, your gaming. While everybody's sitting at home, get home stocks, the Seaver, the biotech stocks. And while everybody's at home wishing they were still getting that free money, what are they doing? Drinking and smoking weed. Don't forget about those stocks, and you have a wonderful day. The most powerful person in the world is the storyteller. The storyteller sets the vision, values, and agenda of an entire generation to come. Steve Jobs. And guys, you know I truly believe in this. When you look at the New World Order, they're the storytellers. And that's the reason why I wrote my New World Order book. But guys, now it's time to change the current generation. And I wrote 3 kids books. You know I love the Trinity because I understand the power that's in it. So I have 3 books. We have an opportunity to change the generation, to educate, not just me, but I want to show you that I take action on a daily basis. And I want you to take action on a daily basis. Whether it's your job, whether it's in your community, we have an opportunity right now to educate the masses. I posted this on my Twitter account. Please share, but this is a short clip of the 3 books. There's going to be a clothing line and action figures. Please get these books for your kids, nephews, cousins, friends, so therefore we can start the re-education now. Because as we see, the 4th Industrial Revolution foundation is definitely here. Robots, algorithms, drones, taking humanity out the picture. We have to re-educate. But let's get into the video.
Part 1. King Joshua and Grandma Tam save the village. Part 2. King Joshua and Grandma Tam save New York from COVID Stories 3. Part 3. King Joshua and Grandma Tam goes to China.
It's mandatory to get part 1, part 2, and part 3 of this series. It's time to re-educate Generation Z.